Okay, well, good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for coming to hear me speak this evening. I'm just trying to work out how I can get my own face on the screen. I can't. Okay, I won't worry about that. Okay, so thank you very much for coming to hear me speak this evening. I'm an occupational and counselling psychologist, so I have basically studied human behaviour at work, but also see clients therapeutically, and I work as a psychological expert. Now, I have diagnosed for dyslexia for a number of years now, well over 10 years, maybe 12 years. I've been diagnosing for dyslexia and also used to undertake needs, not so much needs assessments, but do coping strategies. Within my expert work, a lot of my main work is on cognition and learning disabilities and neurodivergence. So I get those to expert level for things that end up in court, for mothers who might be neurodivergent and have interaction with social services or NHS, and basically supporting them to make sure that they are fairly treated, as well as thinking about what reasonable adjustments can be made to support them. So that's the kind of work that I do on expert witness side. I will say, like, since the lockdown, I've supported a lot of neurodivergent and people with learning disabilities therapeutically. And, there's been a big issue around, especially because of a lot of change that's been happening, a lot of stress and overwhelm, anxiety, which has also led to, sometimes with some clients, periods of depression. This has been due to being triggered by things like changes in their routine, which, as we know, I'm also dyslexic myself. So, once you get yourself into a way of doing things and then being thrown into this COVID-19 world where things have to change very quickly, we're very creative as dyslexics, but many have found it very anxiety provoking that, maybe the changes in their routine will affect the way that they're working and the way that they're perceived by others at work or even within their home. So there's this one element of having to deal with lots of change, and also the overwhelm of having to merge the kind of work and home life at the moment. So these are some of the areas that have come up, as well as the general work challenges and having to adjust to some people doing something totally different, or having, being put in a position where maybe 1 minute they're working and the next minute they're not. So, as I said, the impact on mental health that I've seen recently over the last few months has been around higher levels of anxiety, overwhelm, and stress, and levels of depression at some stages. Okay. Now, I'm just going to go through some of the things that I've been going through with my clients that have helped. What I'll do is I'll talk mainly, firstly, generally about, some particular things that have helped some of my dyslexic clients, but then also around some of the things that help with regards to maybe the work environment and, how we play to our strengths, basically. And celebrate that and really work on our own self-concept of working out who we are, because that's very important as dyslexics. So one of the first things that are really important is to think about, how you look at situations. So, it's very easy, especially when you know that it's something that you're not comfortable with, for example, working in a particular way or having to deal with more typing, or any of the challenges that has been thrown at us because of the fact that we're all stuck at home now. There's something about reframing your mindset. And rather than thinking that, this is something that I can't do or I'm going to do badly at it, think about how you reframe your mindset to something that gives you a challenge, that, I'm going to try and take this in small steps, or this is something I've never done before, but I'm going to do something creative to make it work. So there's something about reframing your mindset which changes the way that you actually approach the task. And it gives you a lot more confidence to approach what you're doing, rather than, focusing on the fact that it's not going to go well. Okay. I think because as dyslexics, there are a lot of challenges around, some people's own self-concept about what others might think about them, that it's very easy to know that because you're not good at something that you'll instantly think that you're going to do it so terribly and everything's going to go badly. But sometimes there's something about taking a step back and thinking about how you reframe that. How do you create this into a challenge of what I can do and how I'm going to tackle this, rather than what is going to go terribly wrong and that I can't do any of it. Okay. Another thing that we've talked about is in order to reduce levels of anxiety is about thinking about the structure of the day. There's been a lot of clients that have come to me who have felt quite a lot of disruption around their everyday. They've had a lot of disruption around their everyday routine, and this has impacted on their level of overwhelm. They're getting anxious and worried about, what they're doing, but also about actually what's going on in the day, because they've had to move from maybe working in a particular way to doing something else. Now, especially because we're at home, we have to think of different ways of working. And so, your routine is not just about what happens when you're going to be doing work or looking after the kids, but the whole day. So there's something about thinking broadly about how you try and keep some consistency to your day. This reduces the amount of anxiety and also the amount of overwhelm about not knowing what's going to happen. So, for example, if it's that you're going to start the day with exercise or watering the plants, you need to put things in your day that are going to be a constant. So even if there are things in your day that you cannot control, that that there are going to be things that you can rely on, like you're going to get up and there's a 8 o'clock Zoom every morning that does exercise or meditation, and that you're going to, maybe incorporate that into your day, or that lunch is always at a particular time. Also, we also need to think about the impact of things like circadian rhythms. Now, we, especially as dyslexics, take a lot of cues from what's going on around us, from the light coming in through the curtains, through the fact that we need to get up and get ready to get on the train. We have a certain routine before we do particular things. And our circadian rhythms really help us to feel less disoriented with the day, and kind of give us pointers as to, what's going to happen. Okay. So even though, in times of uncertainty, which we are in now, but generally happen at work. But if we talk about this general time of uncertainty where people are still trying to get themselves into equilibrium, that there's something about thinking about, how do you create that rhythm with the things that are going on in your home and in your day. Now, things like opening and closing the curtains might sound really basic, but they really help to open the day, that you're opening, you're letting the light in, that you make the bed, and that you set an intention that you're going to start the day. Okay? So even if it's that you're going to be working from home, it's still useful to move out of your pajamas and into something that is still working, even if it's comfortable, just so that you set that intention with yourself, and you will feel mentally better that you're doing something different, that you're doing something with an intention, and that, even if it's that you're going to do the gardening, it might not be that you're going to work, but you're setting that intention that you're going to do something different. So there's a very big importance in this kind of circadian rhythms and structuring your day in a way that sets intentions for basically, how your day is going to be structured. So I would like to invite you to think about maybe one thing you could do that you could change in the way that you start your day that sets a positive intention. Okay. So I'd like you to think about that. One of the biggest areas, because I've talked a lot about anxiety, but there's a lot of worrying occurring at the moment, and especially for people in the neurodiverse community, thinking about just even if they're having to change jobs, what that might mean for them having to change jobs in this kind of time, thinking about what skills they've got to offer, because everybody's looking for different types of people now. So there's a lot of worry and anxiety going on. Now, one of the things about worry is that, firstly, it consumes you, and they're about thoughts that are stuck in your heads that you're not sure what to do with. Yeah. So one thing that I recommend to my clients is thinking about having a worry time or a worry box. Okay. Now, what this means, you can write in this box. For my clients who are neurodivergent, I've even got some autistic clients, they draw things and put in the box, or they put memorabilia in the box. But the whole point of this box or a worry time is that you're setting this intention that you're not going to worry all the time, okay? That you're going to choose a time in your week that you're going to allocate to worrying. And what that means is that the rest of your time is freed up to doing other things that are a lot more positive or constructive, okay? So you can use a box and you can write things, shove them in the box, and for a couple of hours a week you can decide that you're going to use that time to go through the things that you've been worrying about or had concerns about, and think about maybe what you might do with these things. Set them into piles of actions that are for you, things that are out of your control, and things that are the responsibility of others. But what this worry time and this worry box allows you to do is not become overwhelmed with thoughts in our head, okay? Because this is something that dyslexics are renowned for, is having lots of thoughts in their head. We have lots of ideas. We have lots of things that we want to do. We have lots of things that we're concerned about. And what this leads is that this level of overwhelm where there's just so many things and we don't know what to do about them. And then we feel like this sense of lack of achievement because we're not achieving anything. But using the time in this way allows you to think about how you can maybe move things forward, and also that you feel that you are more in control of what's happening, okay? Also, because we are all, there's a tendency to constantly have a number of things on the go at one given time. Meditation is always something that I recommend. It takes you out of the fast lane. It allows you to be still and be present in the moment and be mindful. And the thing about being present in the moment is that if you're staying in the moment of what's happening now, then that means then you cannot worry about what happened last week, and you can't be thinking about what is going to happen tomorrow or in 5 minutes. Catherine's telling me there's something with my microphone.
It's when you're moving the paper, it comes over your microphone, so it's making a kind of jerky sound.
Okay, I'll try and be...
I think when you're turning the paper, the page is over.
Okay, apologies, yeah. Catherine. Okay, I'll try and be as still as I can.
Sorry.
Okay, I've just forgot my last point. What was I talking about? Mindfulness, and being still and remaining in the moment, okay? So one of the things that reduces anxiety and worry, especially for people who are in the neurodiverse community who have so many things going on in their mind, is remaining in the moment. And there are you can access loads of mindfulness apps, but there's some practices that you can take into a day, which are about taking, we should all be taking micro breaks anyway. Whether we're working in the computer, we should be taking screen breaks, whatever we're doing, even if we're immersing ourselves in an activity, we should be taking breaks from it. So think about how you can use short 3-minute micro breaks to be mindful, to snap yourself out of maybe what you've been doing, all the things you've been worrying about, and all the tasks that are overwhelming you, and just stay present in the moment. So it's about using all your senses, which we're very good at as dyslexic. And sometimes even if you just move from the desk to the garden, or just look out of the window, be somewhere different and think about what you can see, or observe what you can see, what you can hear, maybe what you can feel, if you feel hot or cold, if you can taste anything in your mouth, what the sounds, what you can see outside or wherever it is that you're looking and what's in the room. And just every couple of hours or so, just snap yourself out of what you're doing and just be in the room that you're in, be present in what you're doing. And these kind of moments allow you to break away from these moments of worry, because it means that you are just focusing on exactly what's happening now. And even if nothing is happening now, that's a good space to be in, to sit in that space of just being, rather than worrying about what you need to do in 5 minutes. what you need to do next week, and what you need to do, you know, what you haven't done, and overwhelming yourself with all of these kind of things. So, I mean, these are some of the things that, you know, I've been tasking people with loads of exercises around, you know, fitting mindfulness breaks in to their day. Thinking about what is their positive intention that they're going to set for the day. So, you know, what is the mantra that they're going to set for themselves, so that they're going to put it on their desk or in their bedroom or in the bathroom, that they're going to make sure that they set an intention to have a positive day. We think about creative ways to be mindful in the day. So it doesn't have to be that you're going to have, like, you know, mindfulness breaks per se. Some people, we've talked about brushing the teeth mindfully, putting on their shoes mindfully, washing and eating their lunch or their dinner mindfully, so that they are totally immersed in that time and not, you know, trying to eat and then deal with a problem that's coming in by email or over the telephone, where they're just consumed with everything over the time and not really paying any attention to themselves. So there's something about, you know, really having some me time. That is very important. Okay.
I mean, that's right.
Go on.
Would you take any questions at this point?
Of course.
Are you okay? Yeah.
I'm happy to
Does
take some.
anybody have any questions?
People can put their thumbs up if they want with reactions, so we can see them, or just say in chat.
Linda says to dig the garden. It's very, yes. The garden is a very therapeutic and very anxiety reducing. It's one of the things that we actually advise people to join these gardening groups, because it reduces their level of stress and anxiety. So if you do have one, it's a really good time to maybe start planting things and using this time as your micro break to go and see to the plants, or just sit in the garden and look and see what's happening. So thank you very much for that. It was Linda.
Well, you've got, Leonie, is a whole set of suggestions on chat.
Yes, I know. I've got baking here. You know, mindful baking is amazing. Blocking time off in the diary at the start and end of day and lunch. That's really good. Me time is important, and it's often the first thing to go when you're busy. This is why I say that it's very, you know, taking these times to just be in the moment are so important, because we prioritise the needs of everyone else. And I think that sometimes when it comes to activity scheduling anyway, as neurodivergent individuals, we tend to overschedule. So this is why, you know, and we deprioritize the time that we have for ourselves, because we hadn't factored up enough time in, and just over prioritize for everyone else. So this is why, you know, if we can't find 3 minutes, then something's wrong. Start with 3 minutes. You know, we're not asking for 30. 30 is great if you can do 30. But 3 minutes is a really positive place to start. And if you can do it 4 times a day, within your working day or just within your general day, give yourself 12 minutes, is a really positive way to start with reducing anxiety, worry, stress and overwhelm. And I talked about having this... Go on, Catherine.
I'm sorry, Leonie, it's just a burning question I've got. Have you
course.
found that there is a lot of neurodivergent people who are really having a tremendously difficult time over this lockdown? When you give them advice and counselling, can they turn it around pretty quickly, or are you finding they're having a really hard time?
I think that they can turn it around. I won't say pretty quickly, but the first thing is about the mindset, because it's that kind of accepting that you can make the change. And this is why the first thing that I talked about is reframing the mindset. So I'd say that maybe, you know, I've had clients that within the first maybe two sessions, we within the first one, once we went into lockdown, we started thinking about, you know, where we were, you know, what was possible, what wasn't possible, but actually also focusing on what they're good at, because, you know, it's the time when you need to hear that. And that was one of the things I was going to go on to after, is, you know, it's about working on actually what are you good at? What strengths have you got to rely on here? If these are your strengths, then, you know, what how can you resolve this problem? Or how can you tell somebody else that they need to help you with it? So kind of helping people to feel more confident about the fact that they can do something. So I would say that, yes, you have got some people that are genuinely struggling and it's taken a bit longer, maybe a month, 6 weeks, but I'd say you start seeing a change in intention within a couple of weeks once you set some structured exercises of things to do. But the main thing is about the self-belief. And I think that, because of, having such a major change so quickly, it's very easy for your confidence to be knocked when you feel that you were working in a way or managing your life in a way that you was working for you. To have to then find new rules very quickly is something that is not very easy. Okay, so that's, sometimes we get stuck quite a bit at the mindset change, because that's what will stop you. If you can't set your mind, then nothing's going to change.
We've got a question. We've got a statement here from Jean to everyone saying something that she can't do yet, mindset. What are the exercises that you get people to do to change mindset?
Okay, so one of the things is looking at, I talk about playing to your strengths quite a lot, okay? And, you've got to start believing that you can make a change. Because that's how you set your mind. If you don't believe it, then you're never going to get anywhere. So the first thing is about thinking about what you're good at and looking at your strengths, and then starting to set your mind by talking about the things that you know that you can do. Okay, so, I mean, if we look at you can look at it in 4 different areas when you look at strengths. So if you look at maybe, because strengths is quite broad, look at relational strengths is one area. So looking at how what you do that's good at maybe engaging in productive relationships with other people, what makes you good to be around, what makes you, help people to collaborate better, these areas where you might have strengths. And then another area will be around delivering results. So I'll break it down into this area of, how you execute things. How do you actually get things done? What makes you amazing because of the way that you actually do your work or look after your family or, actually complete things? What's your style and what makes people want to ask you to do things for them, whether it be work or non-work? Yeah, so that's kind of delivering results and executing things. So those kind of strengths. And then I get them to think about their thinking strengths. And I think this is sometimes, something that because maybe as a neurodivergent community, we might struggle to, maybe coordinate the way that we think. We actually have a lot of strengths in being creative, of thinking outside of the box, of analysing information, or seeing, problems or solutions to problems that wouldn't be on anyone else's radar. So then this third area I get them to investigate is thinking strengths and, the way that they think and, what makes them amazing. How can they use that to kind of change their mindset? And the second is about, their emotional strengths. What makes, what is it about their personality, just the way that they are, who they are, what they bring to the table as a human being, as a personality, that is a strength. Is it the way that they can manage their particular emotions? Is it the way that they can empathise with people, show understanding? Is it that they know how to be firm when it's necessary, or give hard messages? So one of the things that I do is I task them with, I split it into these 4 areas just to make it easier for them to think about. And they don't need to pick one from each, but they might pick, I get them to pick from at least one area. And we talk about, how maybe, focusing on this strength can help to change their mindset about their can-do attitude. So that's one of the things. Also about setting a positive intention is another one. So we've had mantras. I get them to set mantra that they're going to live by for that week. Some of them I've had are things like, it will be well. I'm trying my best. So positive mantras that they will put somewhere on a table near their bed, and that they will make sure that every day that they will look at this and they will repeat this to themselves. Yeah. So these are all things that help to get people to try to set their mind and get used to thinking more positive thoughts about themselves, because this is where the mindset comes from. isn't it? It's believing. So you have to believe that you've got this attitude, this can-do attitude. So that's, what key exercises that I've kind of helped, supported people to work through, as well as doing things like setting activity schedules. So thinking about, I've talked about structuring the day, but for some people, they've got really low and it's like they don't want to do anything. So sometimes you have to start with basic tasks of making sure that you get up at a particular time of day, before 10 maybe, that you brush your teeth and have breakfast, and that your day, and all of that has to be done maybe before 10:30. And that might just be the thing that you're going to do for a week, just to get yourself into the mode of getting up with some kind of an intention. Getting people to really start getting to grips with what they're feeling, so they don't become frustrated by things and they can deal with them. So getting them to, keep thoughts and feelings diaries, to see what triggers off their anxiety, but also getting used to understanding how they're feeling and the intensity of their feelings. So getting them to keep like thoughts and feelings diaries where they can rate their emotions, and it helps them to work out what triggers off particular behaviours, what triggers off worry, and what makes them feel particularly angry about particular tasks. So these are other exercises that I use with people as well, especially with the neurodivergent community. I think they like things that are quite tangible that they can actually go away and do and think about. So that seems to work.
Would you like people to unmute themselves and to and for you to open up discussion?
Of course,
Leonie.
Of course.
Would you like that?
That'd be lovely.
Yeah. I have actually enabled people to unmute themselves if they want to. Okay.
Okay.
So, it's Bridget. Bridget, I think, is going to speak.
No, I've just unmuted myself. Hello. No, I've just unmuted.
Hello.
I've just heard you say about unmuting, so I've just done that. That's all.
Okay. Does anybody want to ask a question of Leonie, Leonie, do you want to ask a question of other people?
Yeah, so I've talked about positive mantras. So it would be nice for people to think about, maybe what positive intentions that they can set for the week ahead.
I'll say something. What I do, I try to have a positive word each day.
Okay.
So it's being patient, productivity, or peace, balance. Each day I have a word that I have to start my day. So I don't do meditation. I do a form of meditation, but I have quiet time. So I get up really early because my brain's busy from the moment I wake up. So I need to calm it down, because I do have a lot of things I'm thinking about, because I am working from home. And it was a real adjustment I had to make in regards to my diary, just lots of different things. And I've had to calm my brain down because I can get overwhelmed and then burnt out. That by the end of the day, my brain overwhelmed. So I use quiet time in the morning, just time to reflect, maybe a hot drink, because I'm homeschooling as well. So a hot drink, get myself ready for the day, take some positive words in about myself and being kind to myself. I think that's really important because, the journey I've had from school onwards, I think that key thing that you talked about, Leonie, about having confidence, self-belief, acceptance, and all these kind of things are things that I only discovered in my later adult life. So I think those are really key things, and it's some of the things that I'm implementing so that I can have balance and be the best that I can be.
Thank you very much for that, Marcia.
It's okay.
Could I just say something?
Of course you can.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
That app called Calm is actually very good.
Yes, it is.
I really like that. It's just as soon as you turn it on, it's got all lovely sounds of water and birds and then there's so many various different things on there to use. They've got 7 days of this, 5 days of that, and they run simultaneously. So that's a good one for me. Is the Calm app.
Thank you very
I've
much.
heard
That is a
about
good one.
before, yeah.
And Headspace is another good one.
Yeah.
If you want to take a note of that one, that's another good app.
Yeah.
Hi, can I speak?
Of course.
Oh, hi, I'm
Sandra, you've
Sandra.
got echo going on there.
Oh,
You've got a bit of echo.
my children have been trying to sort me out because I couldn't, no one couldn't hear me before.
Oh,
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, it's just got an echo.
Oh,
Okay, we'll try and follow.
okay. Oops, is that any better?
yeah,
No.
a little.
No, I normally get up quite early in the morning and I lie down on my mat, quite, whole body's nice and straight, and listen to some sort of relaxing music. So I try and do that.
That's
most
amazing.
mornings before I go to work, yeah.
And then, so how do you feel after you've done that?
If I don't do it, I don't feel so great.
Okay.
So I do try and make sure, because I used to do a lot of exercise before, but now I'm not able to do it, not because of the lockdown, because of health. So I tend to try and do a little bit of stretching in the morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so then that sets your day up to, for positive things to happen in your day.
Not all the time, even though by the time I've left the house, that's what I'm hoping for, but it doesn't always work out as to how I'm planned if I'm on it.
So the thing is, regardless of whether it works out, because sometimes we can't control what happens in the world, but you set that positive intention that, you're, as far as unless something happens, that, something positive is going to happen. You kind of set that intention with your exercise, and it seems to get your mind in a positive space to be able to tackle the day, and that's really important.
Okay, thanks.
So thank you for sharing that with us.
That's all
Can I just say, I'm Althea.
Hello, Althea.
Hiya. And I work from home, but I'm used to being out and about doing home visits. And the lockdown, I really struggle with that, not being able to go out and, because most of my day is spent on home visits. And then I usually have one day when I do reports and such. Mm-hmm. What I found is that I use Calm as well in the mornings, and I do some stretches exercise. But then what I found recently, that if I go out for an hour walk, starting with sort of 20 minutes, then half an hour, and I listen to, because I'm struggling to read at the minute, read a book. So I listen to a book while I'm walking, so an audio book. And I think that has made a big difference. So I do early morning when the road is quiet.
Oh, lovely.
And I just go for a walk, and I think that makes a difference, because at least I'm out for a bit.
Oh, that sounds lovely. And you know what? One of the things I've been saying to people is that, this, especially with this lockdown, that, we are more in control of our day. Okay. So even though maybe, I totally empathise with you, because I usually work in the community a lot. So being at home so much and not going out and walking and visiting clients is a lot more difficult. But the thing is, we have a bit more control over the structure of our day. So if you want to take a walk in the morning, or you want to break up the day by going in the middle of, after or before you've had lunch, or, doing these things to break up your day also is another way of making you feel that you've got a bit of order. So it can be the way that you start your day, but it's also just think about how what you do that works for you. I've got some clients and they've got kids, and, they're neurodivergent, and they don't work the way that they were working now. We've kind of talked about what works for them as a schedule. And so some of them might get up in the morning, go for a walk like you do. Then they might do maybe 2 hours of work. By that time, the kids might get up, and then they'll do breakfast. And then, they can go back to work because they've given the kids some tasks. And then they work a bit later, but they work out the day. They even play with the kids in the middle of the day, because they work out a day that works for them. Like you you need to be in control of your timetable now. Yes, we do have to work, but actually we're not got the commute as much anymore if you're working from home. And even if you do have the commute, it's a little bit quieter. So how do you make this work for you? We're used to being creative. So how do you use your timetable as a creative, daily project? So it's great that you've worked out how you can get the books and walking in at the same time. That's amazing.
Could I just say something quickly?
Yes.
There's a Facebook group at the moment that's to do with it's called the Corona Flower Show instead of the Chelsea Flower Show. So creative side of it is that I've been joining that and just taking really lovely pictures of flowers on my walks and participating in this little. Each week she judges who's the best photo with. That's quite a good one. I quite like that. My photography is getting better and better, apparently.
Amazing. There are lots of groups. Yeah. One of the things that I say to my clients, is hashtag you are not alone. Okay. Now, it's very difficult being in isolation for some people with families, some people aren't. But, you are not alone. There are so many things going on out there. There are Zoom aerobics. There's a Zoom choir. We're here together on Zoom at the moment. For whatever your hobby is, more than likely you can find a group of people on Zoom at the moment or WhatsApp group who you can engage with. And, I think that this is one of the most positive things for mental health is to feel that, something that gives you endorphins or invigorates you, that you're able to talk with a group of people about that particular thing that satisfies you. So, one thing I will task you with is maybe looking to see, who you can reach out to, like, the hobby that you might have. And also, thinking about, I say to people, draw up a list of people that you can speak to, because we're talking about mental health. So, there might be people that you want to reach out to because you might think that it might be good for them, for you to reach out to them. But also maybe think about people that you haven't spoken to in a long time and draw up a list, and maybe every other day think of how you're going to send someone a text, because it's not just about their well-being, but it's about how it makes you feel for reaching out as well. And it kind of gives you that sense of purpose that you are, you have a purpose. So that's another thing that I wanted to add about, hashtag we are not alone.
That's great, Leona. I mean, I know you had, I'm aware of the time, but I know you had the element about talking about the workplace. I don't know if anybody wants to talk, just you to mention that. I mean, I know a few people said something earlier on in the introduction, I think. Yeah. So I don't know if you wanted to touch on that just before,
Okay, so I just, because I have just completed a piece of research basically on dyslexia in the workplace, of which I basically looked at the impact of disclosing your dyslexia within the workplace and the impact on well-being. I suppose I don't want to get techie, but I just want to pick out maybe some of the bits that maybe have come out of this, just that are kind of linked to well-being. So I kind of interviewed 10 people who are dyslexic, and I used a style that allowed them to talk about their experience of disclosing on a number of occasions. That meant that they were quite free to talk about how they were thinking and feeling at those particular times when they were making those disclosures. So, the whole purpose of why I did it is because there's no research in this area at all. And I think that in order for organisations to improve, that we need to be able to say what dyslexic people are experiencing and how they're thinking and feeling, so that we can work out a model of recommendations to support them. So one of that basically just linked into the well-being is one of the biggest themes that everybody seems to talk about is this thing about the self-concept and learning to accept and love yourself. Okay, so this came in terms of work, firstly about understanding what your strengths and opportunities are. So that's one of the things that I've talked to you a bit about already, is about that, but it was about what is it that I'm doing well. Sometimes through disclosing, people didn't always have the most positive experiences, and sometimes it knocked their self-concept, but there was this great journey of learning who they were, maybe all the things that they didn't do well, but focusing on their strengths and the things that they did do well, and how they create opportunities to be able to work with their strengths. Yeah. So And also there was something about this journey of owning being dyslexic. It's a bit like coming out, you know, and being confident and happy to say to others that this is who I am, this is what it means to me. Also, one of the things that came out was around having this strive for self-improvement, and that, you know, a lot of dyslexics, their way of, I focused on people who are dyslexic here, so I'll say that rather than neurodivergent. But, you know, there was a lot around working out what they could do to improve, thinking about coping strategies that will help them to work better, and how they could just develop. So there was this great can-do attitude of not quitting. You know, just because there are things that I can't do well, it doesn't mean that I'm going to just give up or not improve. And even if other people were telling them that it wasn't possible, people still strived for doing that. And there was also something that seemed to improve people's well-being by telling their story to others, telling their dyslexic story to others, helping people to understand, you know, maybe, you know, what their journey has been, disclosing their dyslexia or being dyslexic at work, and using that to help other people who might be dyslexic. So that, you know, that's kind of something about, you know, working on your own self-esteem by working out how you can share, you know, who you are and what you've learned about yourself, all the positive things from telling your story. And so one of the other things was around, there were two other areas which were around basically who you can trust in the organisation, but also about what you're trying to achieve from disclosing. And so there was this interesting thing that I want to basically put to you, because it's something that I think that, you know, we should think about, which is around this thing about self-legitimacy and like who has the power, who has the gatekeep, who's kind of got the power to say what we need as dyslexics when we're in the workplace. So there was this thing about some people talking about what they expected the organisation to put in place for them. But then also on the other hand, you had a lot of people talking about, you know, that they wanted to be the gatekeeper and that the organisation should be asking them what they want rather than, you know, the organisation telling them what they should have. Okay? So I think that, you know, there's something around that in the workplace, and really striving to have this level of power where you know yourself well enough that you can say to others what will work for you, what won't work for you, what you need, and be able to have a strong conversation about that at work. I mean, one of the things that does impact that is obviously like the way that, you know, you're treated when you disclose, because that can impact on, you know, your confidence depending on how you are treated. And there were big differences in the way that people were treated. But there's something about, you know, holding on to this idea of that you are going to take ownership of what should happen to you at work and be in the driving seat of that. So I think I just kind of want to leave you with this idea, because I think it's really important in the workplace. So I think it's very easy to kind of get lost in maybe technology that people are giving to you, not, you know, knowing what your rights are, but not always having them seen through, knowing that you find particular things difficult, but certain things aren't being done about it. So I think there is this thing about having this perception of, you know, that you've got all the keys to the doors, and that you've got this power, that you will educate others about your dyslexia, because everyone's dyslexia or neurodivergence is different. So I think I just wanted to talk about, put that into the room, because I think it's a really important thing to remember when you're in the workplace.
Yeah, thank you, Leonie. I really like the sense of who has the power and how you own your power and your understanding of yourself and what you need. So I take just a quick example. Is like, I know I'm really good at talking and networking and making things happen, like in meetings, and where my colleague's really good at writing or putting that expression into an email. So sometimes I'm able to negotiate somewhere. You do that because you're really good at that. So I'm doing some delegating it, and I'll quickly make that phone call and I'll speak to those people who you're not very good at. And sometimes that really helps me, empowers me, because I can do something I can do well, and that person's really good at doing that email, which will take me 30 minutes.
Yeah, and you're in control of that, because you know you're playing to your strengths, and you know what you can do well as well, and you're quite happy to, you know, kind of navigate and delegate according to that. So that's really, you know, I think Catherine's put in there about what were my main findings. Well,
we've got people who want to ask questions.
Okay, let's go for the questions.
We've got Jean, and then we've got Becky.
Go for
Thanks,
it.
Catherine. Sorry, I didn't see the messages. Sorry.
So, Jean, do you want to ask? It's Jean T.
Yeah, I agree with everything you've actually said. Actually, as an occ health nurse, I have been involved heavily in people disclosing, and I've actually sat in a call centre, well, not call centre, but on a helpline, and asked people, have you had any problems when you've disclosed? And I was really relieved to hear that I think only one out of several months had actually had any problems, and they didn't want any, you know, they're like, no, we can deal with this, we don't need your help to get any adjustments, we're fine, we own it. And that for me was really encouraging. And for people who I have seen who have been struggling at work or have been newly identified or diagnosed for any of the neurodiversity labels, I've always said, you know, take ownership, learn about it, really exactly what you said, and they've all come back and said it's so much easier when you take control of it and you do it in a calm way, and you know, you do the negotiations, you're better at this, I'm better at that sort of stuff, and they've just said it's not been as negative as we thought it was going to be. Yes, you get one or two, but actually the vast majority in my experience, my professional career it's been a lot easier for people, so I totally back what you said.
Thank you. I think one of the things that, you know, one of the themes that came out was, you know, impact of the organisation and others, and who can I trust? So there was this big theme around, you know, actually, you know, is it safe for me to disclose? Am I seeing cultural practices that mean that it's okay for me to tell somebody something personal about myself? Oh, apologies, I can't turn that off, I'm not sure how to. New laptop. So, you know, how do you work out who you can trust in the organisation? Is the culture, you know, positive? Is it healthy? And, you know, can I see examples of good working practices where people are treated well? Doesn't matter that they're not dyslexic, maybe they've got a disability, or maybe they've had some time off sick. Can I see examples that are telling me that it's okay for me to disclose? Because people do use, you know, what's going on in the culture and how inclusive the organisation is of people in general to make a decision as to whether they should disclose or not. And the thing is, if we need to, just in terms of organisations, you know, one of the things that they need to do is make sure that they create this environment, because you can't make somebody who's neurodivergent disclose. They need to feel comfortable to do it. So they need to make sure that they create parameters where it's conducive to people expressing something personal about themselves. And also, you know, one of the things that's probably linked to occupational health is that there's something around having more power when you disclose formally. So if you just tell people, you know, tell your colleague or somebody in a meeting, there didn't seem to be much follow-up. But, you know, when it was not so much through the recruitment process, but once somebody had the role, that, you know, if anything was to happen, it would happen then. And even if it didn't happen, at least you've told them, and then you can go back to the fact that nothing happened. But that formal ways of disclosing gave people a lot more power, something to work with the organisation with. So thank you very much for that.
We have three people, Leonie, just to let you know.
Okay.
We've got Becky, Dee, and I think it's Duncan.
Okay.
From Northern Ireland. So I'm just going to give you those people's names for you to take them.
Okay. So
Becky.
Is there an order? Sorry.
Becky
is next. Becky.
Okay.
Sorted. Yes. Hello. So yes, I'm dyslexic, and I also support the heritage sector and the creative industries in respect to neurodiversity. And I think one of the key things that a lot of organisations don't do is just a very simple sort of sentence to say, we want you. We want neurodivergent people working with us because of, and then give the list, you know, creative thinking, creative problem solving, all the positives and strengths. But then I also feel that anybody can say that. and you don't know what's going on underneath. So it's about actually relating those actions as well. So things like, you know, what kind of information do they give out? Do they have regular opportunities to communicate? But also in terms of the strategies, one thing that I get a little nervous about being a neurodivergent person is the idea that it's like me and just me, and I don't want it to be me, I want it to be everybody. So the idea that if you employ strategies within the workforce, that actually these strategies will benefit a neurodivergent person, but also the entire team. So good communication, management skills, flexible working, opportunities to create different alternative formats in how you engage, benefit everybody to create that inclusive workplace. So in terms of everyone's well-being, it becomes more beneficial and less on the individual, because sometimes you do feel like you have to keep your eye on the ball. But I love your presentation, Leonie. It's been great.
Oh, thank you very much. But, you know, you do, I suppose what you're talking about is this, you know, inclusiveness, isn't it? And that, you know, yes, these things benefit us, but, you know, actually, if everyone's doing it, then it's, you know, this is what makes it amazing, because it means that we are like everyone else. And you are right. I have to say, I locumed at an NHS trust, and actually I remember when we started, I had to go to occupational health, and I explained that I was dyslexic, and they kind of said, well, you know, well, I explained to them I needed a laptop, I needed it to do these particular things. They're like, well, everyone gets one of those. And I felt really dismissed. But then actually, when I got the laptop, it was amazing. It came with a pen that you could write on the screen. Like, literally everybody had one of these. And it was this level of inclusivity. I felt dismissed, but I realised that actually they treated everybody like this. Everybody had access to all of these tools. So you didn't need to feel different. You just felt included. And so you were right. You know, and that's actually one of the things that I said in my recommendations, is about how, you know, they do something that works for everyone. So thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Up to you now. Do you want to?
Hi, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I thought I got some really good pointers from your talk and everything, Leonie, sorry. Yeah, I think your study I found interesting, and I thought it kind of brought some things to mind that, you know, who has the power, as you say, in the work situation. But in order for sometimes people to kind of get what they need at work, they have to have the confidence to ask in the first place, maybe. Yeah. And also, you know, knowing yourself, you say, so that you can get what you need to know yourself. You need to kind of know what you know, kind of know what you're about and what will help you in the work situation. And sometimes that can be maybe not as easy to kind of to know as you know you might want or you might think. So those are just kind of things that came to mind as you were kind of explaining what your findings were.
Thank you. You know, under this accepting oneself and, you know, developing your self-concept, I talk about owning this journey of dyslexia, or owning your neurodivergence. And it's a journey, you know, of accepting yourself, accepting what you're great at, accepting things that maybe you might not be able to do as well, you know, and then getting to a point where you can maybe celebrate that and talk about it with others. So it is a journey, and like it's a journey. It's always work in progress, isn't it? But that is also, you know, because I think a lot of the onus, you know, I'm talking about is on us, but also there's an onus on, as I said, on the organisation to make sure that the environment's conducive to us be developing into this person. So thank you very much for that, Dee.
Yeah, thank you.